Hello, my name is Sophia Mullane, and today I'll be informing you about the life of Frank Sinatra. Did you know that Frank Sinatra died with 10 dimes in his pocket? According to ABC 33 TV, on December 8, 1963, Frank Sinatra's son, Frank Sinatra Jr., was kidnapped. The kidnappers agreed to a ransom, but only if they talked to Frank Sinatra himself, and only if he was in a payphone. Ultimately, Frank Sinatra Jr. was released unharmed, and the kidnappers were caught. But from that moment on, Sinatra always carried 10 dimes in his pocket so that he could use a payphone whenever he needed to. First, I'll be informing you about Frank Sinatra's life and career. Secondly, his rise to success and fame in the 1940s and beyond. And lastly, his connections to organized crime. First, I'll be informing you about Frank Sinatra's early life and career. Frank Sinatra was born in Hoboken, New Jersey on December 12, 1915. According to New World Encyclopedia.com, his father was named Marty and was a fireman. His mother is known as Dolly, and she worked as a midwife, Democratic Party ward boss, and was apparently a part-time abortionist. Sinatra was an only child and lived in a comfortable middle-class area. His parents said that he showed singing talents from an early age, and in high school he had been a member of the Glee Club and began singing at local nightclubs. According to the Grammy Museum organization, Sinatra dropped out of high school to seek a career as a professional singer after hearing street corner singers in his Italian neighborhood and listening to Ricardo Caruso and Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby was an important influence on Sinatra's early life. Sinatra decided to be a singer and follow in Crosby's footsteps after hearing him perform live in 1935. According to Biography.com, he first caught the attention of band leader Harry James with his radio exposure, and Sinatra made his first recording with James, including the song known as All or Nothing at All. Secondly, I'll be informing you about Sinatra's rise to success and fame in the 1940s and beyond. According to organization New World Encyclopedia, Sinatra signed with Columbia Records as a solo artist in 1943 and was initially a great success. He had numerous hits during the musicians' recording strike, and one of his biggest singles when the strike ended was Saturday Night is the Loneliest Night of the Week. Between 1940 and the early 1943, he had 23 top 10 songs on Billboard, earning him the nickname The Voice. Sinatra began his film career in 1944, and he signed a 7-year deal with RKO and appeared in light musical films such as Step Lively and Higher, which appealed to Sinatra's youthful audience. A year later, in 1945, he co-signed with Gene Kelly in a film called Anchors Away, and the picture was a huge success, and it set the bar for future Kelly and Sinatra films. In 1946, he released his first concept album, The Voice of Frank Sinatra, and by the end of 1948, Sinatra felt his career had come to a halt since he slipped number 5 on Downbeat's annual poll of most popular singers. He tried a few new musical approaches, such as recording gospel songs and novelty tracks, when his record sales also started failing. In 1949, Sinatra starred in 2 films with Gene Kelly, and both were well received critically and helped to boost his career. The rebirth of Sinatra's career began in 1953 when he won an Academy Award and Golden Globe for his supporting role in From Here to Eternity, and the same year, 1953, Sinatra signed with Capitol Records. And according to the organization New World Encyclopedia, Sinatra remade himself with a series of albums, starting with in 1953 in the Wee Small Hours, and ending with his album in 1958, Frank Sinatra Sings for Only the Lonely. By the mid-1960s, Sinatra was back on top and received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and was the main attraction at Caesar's Palace. He was also a founding member of the Rat Pack, and they made several films during their heyday, including the famous Ocean's 11 and Robin and the Seven Hoods. By the end of the decade, he added his signature song My Way to his repertoire. Lastly, I'll be informing you about Sinatra's connections to organized crime. According to History.com, the FBI documented Sinatra's every move for 40 years. The FBI followed Sinatra, compiling a file of thousands of piles detailing his movement, words, and friendships, and the files were made public after his death in 1998. He associated with prominent mafia members such as crime boss Sam Giancana, with whom he was close friends with, and in 1960, Sinatra allegedly connected Giancana to John F. Kennedy's campaign in an attempt to provide union support to the future president, and according to Sinatra's daughter Tina, he performed at Giancana's Chicago club to repay the favor of his help in Kennedy's campaign. And according to History.com, there is documented evidence that the mob put pressure on Sinatra to release him from a 1951 contract. And Sinatra also flaunted his known ties and association with the well-known mobsters. However, Sinatra did volunteer to snitch on some of the criminals he associated with, and in 1950, he offered his services as an informant to Hoover, who was the first director of the Bureau investigation, but the FBI did decline, and according to the Washington Post, at the bottom of the memo, Clyde Tolson, the FBI associate director, wrote, "We want nothing to do with him," relating to Sinatra. And he was never charged with any crimes related to his numerous mob connections. Overall, you can see that Frank Sinatra lived a fulfilling life. I explained his early life and career. Then I explained his rise to success and fame in the 1940s and beyond. And lastly, I explained his known connections to the organized crime. Frank Sinatra died in 1998 because of a heart attack with 10 dimes in his pocket. Thank you for listening to my speech.